Morning, everybody. Luxury is not a subversive discipline. So what does it do for a brand when they deliberately choose to ally themselves with the outrageous, the alternative, or the radical? What are the benefits for a brand? What are the risks? And most crucially, in one of the most disruptive periods in the history of the luxury industry, how easy a strategy is this to manage and maintain? I'm delighted to welcome this morning three men who are standing on the edge of our sector. Please join me in welcoming John Demsey, Laurent Potdevin, and Liam Casey. Welcome. A few short bios before we begin, but John Demsey here in the middle, Executive Group President of Este Lauder Companies, owner of some of the biggest and most famous beauty brands in the world. John's also known as the mastermind, or one of the masterminds, behind the growth of MAC, which went from a small industry insider brand in the 1980s to one of the most famous prestige cosmetics brands on the planet, largely thanks to its embracing of subcultures, underground cultures, and some fairly outrageous campaign stars. We've also got Laurent Potdevin, the CEO of Lululemon, the cult yoga-inspired lifestyle brand that not only reported $2 billion worth of sales in 2015 last week, but has also proven itself to be a real leader from the front in innovation when it comes to product design, when it comes to its management structure, and also new and exciting ways of building relationships with customers. And last but not least, we've got Liam Casey over here, known by many in the tech industry as the China Fixer. Liam is the CEO of PCH, which is a custom design and manufacturing business based in San Francisco and in China, and has been doing some very exciting collaborations in the fashion space, more of which we will hear about later. So, John, I wanted to start off with you and talk a little bit about the evolution of MAC. What opportunity did you see in the market for something as radical and alternative as MAC when you did?
Well, when the MAC brand was founded in the mid-1980s, it was a makeup artist brand that was servicing a diverse community. Actually, the original mantra of the brand was all ages, all races, all sexes. And the idea was that a makeup artist could help you explore the versatility of life, whatever you wanted it to be, no judgment. So when you go back to the original concept, MAC embraced a community of makeup artists and was one of the first brands to really aggressively go after supporting makeup artists, supporting backstage fashion shows and such. Because the brand started in Toronto, Canada, didn't start in New York, it didn't start in Paris, it didn't start in London, the people that were around the brand were multicultural and very diverse. It represented sort of the melting pot of what Canada was like in the mid-1980s and has continued into this time frame. And the original founders of the brand basically did very unconventional things.
Like what?
Unconventional things that the type of people that were the spokespeople for the brand, if you go back to the original MAC campaign with RuPaul, which was the first face of MAC and its Viva Glam campaign, which raised money for HIV and AIDS, which from its inception has raised over $420 million. It's that decision to take a man dressed as a woman and to embrace wig stock and sort of the edge or fringe of alternative lifestyle in the world was the first brand to do so.
So let's focus for a minute then on that strategy of picking these outrageous campaign stars. There was RuPaul, the drag queen, of course, at the beginning, but there's been Lady Gaga, Nicki Minaj, and most recently Caitlyn Jenner, who was signed earlier this year. Can you just talk us through the sort of decision process in picking these faces and some of the risks that are involved with them?
Well, the beauty of working on MAC is we're very focused on being unfocused. Pop culture is our compass, and the risk is not to take a risk, and there's an expectation. Actually, the Caitlyn Jenner situation was actually very interesting. The day after the Vanity Fair cover on the front page of the Post, they had a front headline that MAC signs Caitlyn Jenner. As a matter of fact, we had never even had the conversation. We had the thought. So the general public actually had an expectation that we should do so. So when you establish a personality or brand voice, people expect you to live up to your brand voice and to be authentic. And I guess the risk is to first of all continue to be trailblazing, not to pander to any particular group, and to be embracing diversity on a global scale. This interconnected sort of digital era that we're living in right now you really don't know where the next pop culture trend or star is going to emanate from, because today any person with a cell phone can basically establish an audience, and we have found that that power of harnessing pop culture, the fringe, makeup expressions actually become a powerful business model, especially when you couple it with sort of fast fashion, quick to market merchandising and product techniques.
In terms of another counterculture that's emerged massively in the last 15 years, it's the explosion in healthy living and lifestyle. And so, Laurent, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of Lululemon. I mean, the denim market's in big trouble at the moment because now most wealthy Western women like to wear their exercise pants, their Lululemon leggings, to the supermarket, to the school gates. How much of an influence do you feel that Lululemon has had on the rise of that culture?
Well, I think we've had tremendous influence. I mean, as an originator brand, I mean, we've created that market from scratch, and we've put a huge lens on the combination of athleticism and mindfulness. And mindfulness at the time was yoga. And obviously, when you think about the 8 limbs of yoga, I mean, today it's a much broader sort of scope that includes meditation. But it started with athleticism and yoga, and so we've put this lens on the market and a great vehicle with our product to get involved and feel a lot better when you get involved. And then we've created a monster with that, right? Athleisure.
Yeah, you don't like the term athleisure, do you?
We think it's really lame. And it's the lowest common denominator for stretchy pants. And so, yeah, we do feel like it's a trend, and we really hope that bubble is going to pop soon. And we'll continue to do what we do best, which is really focus on function, solving problems for the athletes, and doing that while putting sort of incredible design on our product. But we've created this market, and we really do feel like, as much as athleisure is a trend and probably pretty fickle, the lifestyle of being athletically minded and very mindful in how you live every aspect of your life is a very long-term phenomenon that's going to continue globally for both men and women.
You really ingratiate yourself into the lives of your consumers. Do you want to explain a little bit about some of the policies and sort of strategies that you take in terms of building long-term relationships? You don't have a loyalty program, you don't have anything like that. So what do you do?
What we do is we trust people, and it was actually pretty hard coming in as the CEO, because I think I've got the least amount of power in the company. And when we talk about decentralized leadership, I mean, our focus is completely on personal development and leadership development. And we've got 360 odd locations in the world, and you've got 27, 28-year-old store managers running $15, $20 million business, and we pretty much let them run the business. And you get very consistent experiences. Vanessa, you talked about the value of experiences. I mean, obviously we have great product, but the reason why we don't have a loyalty program, I mean, we have effortless loyalty, and it's because of the experiences that we create in the stores.
And is it right that initially you go in and you create community centers, classes where people can take yoga, and it's only when you work out where the popularity is that you plant the store?
It's a little bit different. What we do is that we'll go in a market, we'll open a showroom. So it's a small location. It's usually open 3-4 days a week. It's staffed full time, and so it's open 3 days, and the rest of the time we've got our store managers, our educators get connected with the community, so they get connected with the right studio, whether it's yoga, CrossFit, TRX, bar, meditation. The owner of those studios we call ambassadors, and so we don't sponsor any athletes. So those relationships are incredibly authentic because we drive business to their studios, they help us with product development, we give them the tools of personal development, leadership, but there's no contractual agreement. So when they speak on behalf of the brand, it's incredibly authentic. I mean, our marketing budget's roughly 2% of sales. So we don't go very far with that. But it's that decentralized leadership and that hyper-local relevance that gives us the effortless loyalty that you just referred to. And
although this conference is about sort of the value beyond product, ultimately the product is still very important. You do spend a lot of time and money focusing on that, don't you?
It's absolute permission to play, yeah. And I mean, and that's where we're in a very unique position, because when you think about our vertical model, I mean, not only we're controlling every experience we've got with our guests. I mean, we call our customers our guests and our salespeople educators. So we control 100% of our guest experience. But as a result of being vertical, we also have a margin structure that really allows us to play with amazing fabrics, construction techniques. So yeah, we're very passionate about product. And to your point, it starts with product. Product has to be awesome.
Product is a good point to move now on to Liam. I think just so before we start, it would be helpful if you gave a bit of an outline to the audience of what exactly PCH does. I mean, one of their taglines is, if it can be imagined, it can be made, which sounds quite really Wonka-ish to me. So explain, please.
So we work with, over the last 20 years, we worked with a lot of large tech companies that have ideas for products and they need help to bring it from the concept all the way through to a consumer. So we work on the product development stage, all the way through the manufacturing, the packaging, the logistics, and the delivery to consumers. Now, more recently, we have an e-commerce business as well called fab.com, where we ship products, where we sell online. We also have an incubator where we work with startups that have an idea for a product and they don't have the resources, so we give them access to our end-to-end platform to bring them all the way through. Some companies like Ringly and Exo Studio, we're working with them. They've been through our Highway 1 program, which is our incubator, that helps them, with their idea and, go from an idea to being in the retail store within 10 months. Not always 10 months, but sometimes. Right. And it has the out-of-box experience that they get when they sell a product is as good as any of the world's leading brands.
Your most famous partner is probably Apple, but you've got some incredibly exciting recent collaborations. I wanted you to talk to one of them, namely another magazine collaboration, and also after that, I'd like to hear about this UV wearable patch that you recently unveiled earlier this year.
Okay, so the another magazine, I spent 10 years in the fashion business before I ended up in the tech world, and a couple of years ago we saw the whole emergence of wearables, and there's a huge fear from the fashion world of entering into the whole technology and sensors. And there's also a fear in the technology world of the fashion world. So we saw a great opportunity to bring it together. And Jefferson, I met Jefferson Hack at an event where he said he had this idea for a magazine where he wanted to put a digital cover on his magazine, which is a really challenging idea. And he wanted to do it in a really fast time frame. So we took it from the idea to launching it here in Paris at Colette in 3 months. Putting a full digital screen on the cover of his magazine where it had a 90-second video. And we were asked why we do it. We did it because we think that the convergence of fashion and technology we think it's going to be huge. And we would hope that the fashion industry would lead, otherwise the products could look a bit boring.
We all saw Google Glass, right?
Yeah. So and working with Jefferson got us great attention in the fashion industry, and so now we have a lot of fashion companies coming to us looking for help in the whole wearable space. And the one thing that's emerged from us from that, just the whole learning, is that when it comes to garments, the problem with when wearables is not necessarily the making of a garment or the integrating the technology. It's going to be about the care of a garment. So it's who's going to fix the laundry system and the laundry of a garment and the care of a garment, because
that's a huge potential business.
That is the potential, and it's for the appliance industry to come up with, washing machines were developed like 50 years ago. Nobody has changed it since, and we think there's a great opportunity to do that, to really change how we care for garments.
What about the wearable patch?
Wearable patch is a partnership with L'Oreal. We opened an innovation hub in San Francisco about 3 years ago, and with our work with the startups, we got huge attention from the large brands that want to enter into the technology world, and they want to be involved in this IoT space, connected devices, wearable devices. So L'Oreal came to us with this idea that they wanted to put a patch, electronic patch, on the body that would measure sun intake, so UV intake. We had the capability to embed the technology into the patch. They had the algorithms, they had the access, they also had the sun treatment to help the consumer. So over about a 4-month period, we actually developed the patch. We launched it at CES, and the reaction CES is the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas. The reaction to the product has just been phenomenal. And it's interesting, what we learned from that was if we're working with a technology company on wearables, they are really scared to experiment with products that go on the body, go on skin. But they're great at the technology. When we engaged with L'Oreal, it was amazing. We have 4,000 people in R&D, and every one of them is working on the skin. So they have no problem putting a product on the body, and they're really good at it. They understand the reactions to different materials, fabrics, metals or whatever. So they were so comfortable with trialing in the process that no technology company would ever go there. And for us, that enabled us to move at a very fast pace and to actually deliver a product that was just really great.
In terms, you touched on wearables maintenance as a big potential growth market. If you look into your crystal ball, what will some of the big trends be in terms of luxury partnerships in tech? Where could there be a lot of money and a lot of innovation?
So I think for us, it's global solutions is what the big opportunity is. We operate on the basis that we're 3 hours from every factory we work with. We're 3 days from 90% of the consumers on the planet that buy the products. And when you control an entire supply chain like that, and you can do it in a confident way, you actually can control the experience very well. Ari talked earlier about the events. When we look at events, there are 3 things that our customers focus on. They create the moment of interest, the moment of purchase, and the moment of experience. And if you look at the last 2 weeks, you had so Apple would have launched their phone last Monday week. It will sell in the stores this week. So Monday week was the moment of interest. Friday is going to be the moment of purchase, and immediately after that is the moment of experience. Elon Musk just launched a Tesla. That was a moment of experience or a moment of interest. The problem will be you have to wait 18 months before the car will be available. But when it does, that will be the moment of purchase, and the experience will happen immediately after. What we work with companies is how to shorten those 3 events and bring them together so that you create this phenomenal experience. And it's limited edition, it's unique content, it's products that if you don't buy them now, you're not going to get them in the future.
So we're now in an era where the consumer is demanding constant gratification. John, how do you maintain an edge and a newness? How do you keep that balance with the pressures of the industry that we're in at the moment?
Well, I think since this is a luxury conference, I think the thing that distinguishes luxury brands from the more massified aspects is the experience. And obviously building businesses that are strong direct to consumers with more vertically integrated retail stores, more eventing, more media platforms. It's actually very interesting when you look at a brand like MAC, which began without $1 of advertising or marketing, as a brand that began completely on word of mouth and that was built based on artist relations, community relationships, and working with subcultures. MAC is the biggest brand in social media on all platforms.
What are some of the most exciting campaigns? Because you've done a lot of great ones on social media with MAC.
Well,
some of the standouts.
It's very interesting. I shouldn't be saying this at a New York Times conference, but when we just launched Ariana Grande, basically as a Generation Z initiative, all we did was go out on our platform and her platform with a press release, and that did it. I mean, the old days of having long lead press and having a party and having an event and doing all that, but when somebody has 55 million followers and we have collectively 24 million followers, and you take the ripple effect of amplifying that voice across all the other subsequent social networks, it has, when you hit something with a core audience that's on point, it works. And we actually learned this as an accident about 4 years ago. Nicki Minaj had come into our office, and we had just discovered Lady Gaga. She was one of the first, one of the evolution of what we've been working on. And she came into our office, and honestly, I had no idea who Nicki Minaj was, but my niece did. And she came in my office, and she said, "I'm going to be bringing out this music on, called Pink Friday," and we didn't know what to do with her. She had pink hair. She seemed very subculture, and we said, let's do a lipstick online and make it pink and sell it only on Friday. And we made 5,000 pieces, and in 15 minutes, when we put it out on her social platform and ours, it was gone. Then we signed her to be the face of MAC Viva Glam, and the ripple effect of that was extraordinary. Then we upped the ante and went to Rihanna. So The idea that, but that is the new media dynamic, because the celebrities, the counterculture heroes, the girl with the flip camera who lives in the valley, who is a makeup artist at a Nordstrom counter, who all of a sudden has 2 million followers and does how-to videos. In our business, which is very visual and very experiential, it's created a new dynamic. But the thing that makes luxury, or defines luxury, because the thing that concerns me and concerns us is the commoditization of all this chatter and all this content and all these platforms.
I mean, in our world, going back to wearables, I think you're right. I mean, 10 years from now, the wearables will be embedded in the body anyway. And the world doesn't need another piece of wearable that's going to tell you how many steps you've taken or your body fat, because it doesn't change enough daily, unfortunately. But when you talk about experiences, I think what's really important, what we're really passionate, I mean, one of our big goals is we're saying that in 10 years, 50% of our net new profits will be generated from products that don't exist or experiences that don't exist today. So what we're really passionate about is actually how do you use the information and what's the call to action with the data that you're gathering. So not just sending you data, but I mean, what do you do with it? So picture, you're traveling from LA, you're coming here, you've got a layover in New York, and your environment knows that the best way for you to replenish your energy is through meditation, and you've got time to do a meditation right now, or a spin class when you land in Paris. I think that's the huge unlock in balancing the connection of body, mind, and heart. And that's where we see Lululemon being positioned in a very, very unique way that is globally relevant to use the data that's coming from the wearables. So not doing more of the wearables, but really the call to action that it provides.
So in terms of future ROI, where would you say your core investment goes?
I mean, I think it's a combination. I mean, obviously we love product. I mean, I recently appointed the first ever creative director for Lululemon. So a guy that's coming, Lee Holman, who's coming with a background in fashion and in athletics. So he's got the craftsmanship, the attention to details, obviously an outstanding design vision for the brand, and he knows how to solve problems for athletes. And his peer is actually our head of R&D. So that tension is, when we have that tension happening, that's where we really create magic. So that's what the future is for us. And then obviously, building a digital culture. So the experiences that we have in our stores are really unique. I mean, they are the one that create that effortless loyalty. And if you look at our digital our digital ecosystem, we've got some ways to go. So we're building this center of excellence around digital so that we can actually scale all of our grassroots. Take our 2% of marketing, take out all of our grassroots activities that are so powerful at the store level, and to your point, amplify that globally. So those 50 local stories become like a really powerful global stories, so that our model can scale really quickly.
Liam, you sort of straddle both sectors at the moment. What do you think some of the big challenges are in terms of the structure of the luxury industry and how it can adapt to tech and stay on the edge?
I think one of the things in business today, geography is history. So you've got to be able to reach a global audience immediately. And you need a very simple supply chain, but it needs to be very capable. And you've got to be able to, I think when you control the source and you control the amount of content or product that you put out there, you actually will generate a lot more loyalty from people. I actually think the fashion industry, when I look at one of the biggest challenges in the fashion industry, or mistakes in the fashion industry, is creating, they've built a business out of a mistake, which is, these outlet centers, right? Creating product for outlet centers. If you want loyalty and you want unique content, and you want people to pay a premium for a product, you've got to control that experience, and you've got to control the product. And if you're going to create an outlet center, create it a center of heritage, create it where your brand originates from, where there's a story, and you can really engage with the consumer and build loyalty for them, and there's a reason why they actually come to your product and want your product. Otherwise, you're just completely diluting it long term.
I'm going to throw this to the floor now. I wonder if anyone has any questions to ask the panel.
Liam, you talked about the need or your desire to shorten the time frame between interest and experience. That sounds to me like you think people should be selling clothes directly after they show them. What's your feeling about that debate that's currently raging?
I think that, yes, I think that all brands have to have a community base, and they have to have access to a community, and they have to be able to communicate directly with them. And you asked a question with Ari about the Kanye event. When you launched the original Easy shoe in New York, it happened over the All-Star weekend. You had to be in New York from 9 o'clock on Friday night to Sunday night. You had to be in the 5 boroughs. You had to download the app, and you actually had to go online and buy it. And it was a limited edition, it sold out. We think there's a huge future in that. You know, for Fab, when we acquired Fab, that's a big part of what we think we can do, creating pop-ups that are unique. And pop-up stores that you will never read about, you will never advertise, they will never be on the high street. You will have to discover them, you'll have to stumble upon them, or you'll have to know where they are. We would hate for people to be walking past the store and to, walk in, or like kind of look in the window and walk in. They would be coming to a destination. So we think that those events are really important because you actually can manage the entire experience. And it should never be instantaneous. There should be a gap in between the moment of interest, the moment of purchase, and the moment of experience. But the gap between the moment of purchase and experience should be shorter.
There is an implication in terms of the supply chain, and that the way that beauty used to work, or the way the brands that were quick on beauty, is we used to use the backstage trend of a designer basically to set the tone in terms of what the looks were for the following season and what the campaigns were. What's starting to happen right now is looks are done more in season, when not in advance like it used to be done. And secondarily, what's also happening is that some of our brands like Tom Ford, which have made the decision to transition to RealTime Fashion, we actually need to create the look and the trend in advance before even knowing what the press reaction is, what the consumer reaction is. So the old system actually was set up originally partly to create the anticipation and the desire for the product, but also had a practical side of actually placing orders for products that actually matched what people actually were going to buy. And based on the dynamics of today, we're living in a hybrid of having to do real-time fashion and long-term planning parameters as well, and you have to make the trends yourself.
One thing that we see as well is that we see a lot of the technology companies we work with, especially the Asian-based technology companies, where they actually create this batch selling and batch manufacturing. So they will produce like 100,000 units. And I was in one company and they sold out their entire production in 6 minutes. And then they never repeated that product. When you think about it, Xiaomi, it's a Chinese phone company. But when you think about it, that idea came from Zara. They don't repeat products. So that fast fashion and applying that to technology or to other industries is a great opportunity.
If you look at what's happening in our world, it's obviously that attention to, there's a very short span of attention. I mean, we drop product weekly. So, and that's a huge part of that effortless loyalty and the frequency of the engagement. And we actually see, at some point, the ability to make the garment, the technology will exist for the garment to be made in the store. So not having the inventory, but the garment being made on the fly for you. Obviously we're in a different industry. Making products probably a little bit more simple to construct. But we really see, the engagement with our communities and our brand really being driven by the frequency of how often we update the product.
We're seeing more and more where consumers want information. You've got to, when you think about a supply chain, it has to be sustainable and it has to be engineered so that it's sustainable. And you have to have phenomenal traceability and transparency for consumers. Consumers today want to know where the product comes from. They want to know what happens in the production lines. They want to know where the materials come from. They want to know how much water is being used. And less is more. Making less product is much more important.
Are there any other questions? There's one. Oh no, that's just a head scratch. Yeah, here we go. There's just behind the pillar.
Thanks. Hi, Angelito Tan. Just for Laurent, I think your company's been quite creative and pioneering in how you do in-store merchandising, specifically by merchandising by mood or by the occasion. I was just interested to know if how that comes about and if you think that's applicable to the fashion industry or luxury fashion industry.
We don't merchandise by mood, but we do merchandise by sensation or by activity. And so would that translate to the fashion industry? Well, it depends how many units per transaction you have. I mean, the way we're merchandising in the store, I mean, we've got obviously, like, if you think about the women's business, women's bottoms is the anchor, and that's where we drive most of the traffic, most of the business. So that's driven by sensation and activity. I don't know that it would necessarily translate, actually. It works really well for us because it allows you to merchandise an entire outfit, whether you're going running or whether you're thinking about TRX or yoga. I don't know if it would translate. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, just the importance of point of sale. I mean, that's very much the case in beauty still.
Well, it ultimately, the ultimate purchase decision in our business, when all is said and done, takes place 3 feet in front of the consumer, whether it's on the screen, based on the digital experience, or based on the retail experience. So we find that, but in terms of zoning looks or zoning fragrance size ideas or collections, that does foster greater sales.
We are seeing that the cosmetics world, working with companies like L'Oreal, we are seeing that, and it's only recently we've engaged, about a year ago, that the cosmetics industry today is where the music industry was in 2001. What we mean by that is that the delivery mechanism is going to completely change. And today it's being delivered on the equivalent of a cassette player, and somebody's going to come up with devices that are going to manage the whole delivery and that whole experience. And that's a big part of what we're working on.
Which is, I think that's true.
It's partly true. I mean, it's the nice universal thing about cosmetics is you still use a lipstick on your lip, you still use an eyeshadow on your eye, So it's the end usage stays pretty much the same, but the way that it gets delivered or the way that you experience evolves.
Just to close, a rapid fire round, an area of focus for each of you in the next 12 months in terms of maintaining the edge.
It's really building, continuing to build that tension between function and fashion, knowing that everything we do starts with function. So if we don't have a unique functional point of view, we don't make it. And having the courage to walk away from product that we could sell a whole lot of that doesn't fulfill that promise, and then building the digital ecosystem that really allows us to continue to tell our brand story in a very authentic and scalable way.
John?
2 things. The answer is in the store. If you actually watch your sell-through pattern and see actually what's selling, you can tell the shade shifts or the fashion shifts before they even happen. If you monitor certain locations or certain countries or certain demographic groups. Secondarily, you need to watch what's happening on the social media channels and react to it in real time, not in the old-fashioned cycle.
Liam?
We work in the experience economy, and it's about delivering great experiences, and that's the focus, is how can you really continue to improve the experience.
Great panel, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause.